Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the Masters of the Universe Origins Castle Grayskull playset that also includes the special edition Sorceress. Now in front of me here you can see I have a boxed version of the Castle Grayskull, and I have to say the box is actually pretty impressive. It's very large, almost too large for me to film. You can see it barely fits on my filming area, but I wanted to show it to you because I think the artwork on the front is really fantastic. They've done a lovely job of sort of recreating the feel of the 1980s Castle Grayskull box. You've got this wonderful illustration of the castle with a battle going on beneath it and all sorts of things happening around it. I just think it's a lovely image. They've certainly put a lot of thought into how this looks and the sort of the shelf appeal that it has, and for me, walking into a toy store and seeing this, I would definitely have wanted to buy it. On the left hand side you can see we have an image of the Sorceress action figure that is an exclusive that's inside this box. This Sorceress comes with a white outfit, unlike the sort of the colourful version that you can get on card. If we flip the box over, I'll show you the back of it because you get to see the actual playset there. This version on the front is clearly an illustration, but the back has far more details. Now you get to see the Castle Grayskull playset surrounded by a selection of other action figures that come in this range, and these are the sorts of images that I used to love as a child because this sort of gave me an idea of what I could try and recreate. If I had the playset, then I knew I had to get all of the characters that went along with it. So here we have a sort of a mixture of different waves of the figures. There's some from the first wave, then we've got a few from the second wave. There's also the Land Shark down here and Panther in the middle and Battle Cat. So it just gives you an idea of what else is available in the line, and I like it when they do that because it certainly gives you an idea of what to ask for Christmas, and that's really the idea of these things. It's that you buy one thing and then you can pester your parents to say, well, I want another one, and I like the fact that they're still doing that in toys all these years later. As you can see, the playset does look quite impressive. There's a little bit of information sort of dotted around. This is a European version box, so there's a lot of different language versions. This big chunk of text here is basically the same bit of text but in multiple languages, so it tells you what is in the box, and then there's also an image on the top right that shows you all of the pieces that you get. But really what you want to see with this is the actual castle, so let's take this out of the box. I'll show you all the pieces that are there. I think there's a whole selection of stickers to apply, so let's get stickering as well. So this is everything that is inside that box. As you can see, there are quite a lot of pieces, and this is very reminiscent of the original playset back in the 80s. It came with lots of different pieces, so we've got different sort of floor panels. These have little banners hanging underneath them. We obviously have the Sorceress, which is the exclusive figure. I'll show you more of her later on. Then we have a whole selection of other panels and computer pieces. In the original playset, some of these panels were made out of cardboard, so they've sort of upped the quality of this playset by changing things to be actually sort of plastic computer pieces. And then of course we have an instruction sheet and a set of stickers that we need to apply to everything. So I think before I put this playset together, I'm going to put the stickers onto the toys, but because this is on toy-polloi, before I put the stickers on, I'm actually going to scan this in and save it for future use in case in sort of say 20-30 years time there are people wanting to restore these playsets and they don't have a good scan of the sticker sheet. I'm going to do that now and put it on file because I always like to try and think ahead. So let's scan this in, then I'm going to apply the stickers to the playset and we can put it together using the instruction sheet here. Now we come to putting Grayskull together. It comes in lots of parts like the original playset, and they all seem to clip in again much like the original playset. The plastic used is a little bit more flexible and they do seem to have a little bit more of a click, so when you push them in they really sort of click in place and you can easily remove them again. So first up, let's put in the main floor, which also has the throne on it. So we have to clip the throne onto the main floor, and that's a little bit hard to do. I've found you just have to sort of push it. There you go. And this again, like the original one, has the trapdoor in it, so if you turn this it will open the trapdoor. There you go, like so. So it's the same sort of mechanism they've put in place. I think this one probably works a lot better because the old one had a little bit of a sort of a knack to it and it was easily broken. So this floor we just click into here. You can see if I push it, you'll hear it click in place. There you go. And It's nice and firmly in there. Then we have a computer terminal, which is a new thing. The computer terminals on the original playset were made out of cardboard, and I showed you these are now made out of plastic. So these clip into little holes on various points of the set. So that one goes there. The computer terminal on this side, again, is now a nicely made bit of plastic, and we've added the sticker to that one, so we can push that one in place like so. And then it's lots of floors and other things. So I'll get those all clicked in, and then we can take a look at the set. And here is Grayskull all put together. It really does remind me of the vintage version of this set. They've pretty much copied everything but sort of made it more modern. And they've also fixed a few issues which I'll show you as we go through it. The overall effect though is you've got a really nice playset. Once it's opened up like this, you can see you've got quite a large play area with a couple of floors and lots of different features. So let's take a look at each one of those features, and I'll show you how they work in this modern version of Castle Grayskull. First up, we have all the accessories that this playset comes with. So you have two different weapons racks, and then you have the sort of jousting pole thing at the back. The weapons rack here on the right is very similar to the vintage one. It doesn't come with quite as many weapons, but it holds the weapons pretty nicely, and it's really very similar to that vintage version. So it's the same sort of shape with little clips all over it, and you can see that these are the 4 weapons that you get. It's quite a nice sort of upgrade to it. I think it does work just as well as the original one, but it's now made in a sort of brown plastic as opposed to the bright orange one that the vintage version came with. Now you also get an additional weapons rack, which is this one that's shaped like an eagle, and again those weapons will sort of sit on top of this quite happily. I've just put He-Man's weapons on it for a moment just so you can see that it has room for extra weapons, because obviously all of these figures come with more weapons than they can sort of handle, so it's useful to have some place to store them. Then we have the jousting pole, which I think they have upgraded quite nicely. This is much sturdier than the vintage one. It's got a big fist on one end and a sort of boar's head on the other. I guess the idea is you can sort of hit it and spin it round. So yeah, that's quite nice. Again, it's just a sort of upgrade of the one that came with the vintage version. And then of course we have the Sorceress. Now this is a nice sort of exclusive figure that comes with this playset. You can get a carded version of her where she's in all of her sort of full colours. This is the white version, so you've got a nice set of clear plastic wings on the back that do open up, and then all of her outfit is done in white with a white staff there. I think this is a pretty nice figure. I'm sure some people will just want to get this playset just to get this version of the Sorceress. She has all the same posability as the other figures that I've previously reviewed. So she's got ankles that move. You can move her at the calf there, and then her knees bend and her hips bend, and yeah, basically it's the same as the other figures, just made out of a white plastic. But I think it's quite a nice additional figure to get with this set, and certainly makes the set more sort of desirable for a lot of people, because they'll just want to get this version of the Sorceress. The playset still comes with a lift on the left hand side. This is actually made out of 2 bits of plastic this time, so you actually have to stick that floor piece in place, but it is unclippable. Once you clip it in, you can unclip them. And then again you have this little gargoyle, and you can then pull the lift up to the top floor. In the original version you had to sort of hook this gargoyle somewhere to hold the floor in place. This one actually clips in place. If you push it up and sort of push it a little bit firmer, like that, it clicks in place, but Tila doesn't want to stay up, so that will now stay there without sort of falling back down to the floor. There is also a foot peg on it as well, so you can click your figure onto that, so they do stand up quite nicely. This second floor, as I said, now features a plastic computer terminal, unlike the cardboard one that came with the vintage version. We've also got some additional bits now for holding this ladder in place. The original playset did come with a ladder, but it really just sort of leant against different parts of the set. There are now holes you can see here where the ladder actually sort of fits in. There's also equivalent holes on the top floor here, so that when you put the ladder on, it does actually sort of lock in place. I think that's quite a nice upgrade that they've done to this set. It means that the ladder actually has a bit more purpose to it. They've also upgraded the banners that hang down here. On the original playset, those were made out of paper and did get damaged quite easily. These are now made from fabric and actually click in place, so you can remove them. I can just remove that one there, so you can see that is one of the banners, and they can actually be clicked onto any one of the sort of upper sections there, so you can sort of swap them around. I think these are really very nice. It's a shame they didn't do more of them. They've only got 2 here with the set. They could have at least done 3, so you could have 1 in each of the different sort of locations. And they have also missed a trick, I think, with these, because the flagpole could easily have had this sort of fabric on the top of it. As it stands, it is made out of plastic with a couple of stickers on it, and I think it ends ends up looking a bit sort of rubbish like that. If they'd made these nice fabric flags, you could have had one of those on there and it would have looked a whole lot better. But I'm sure they've done that for sort of cost saving exercises, and this was much like the original flag was done, just with a sticker on a pole. So maybe they've kept it like that for a reason, but I think they could have put this sort of fabric flag on here and it would have looked a whole lot better. On the right hand side we have the throne room and secret trapdoor. This works much like the original playset, so if you turn the throne, the trapdoor opens and Skeletor will drop down into the dungeon below. So let's give that one go. I'm going to turn this around. Hey, there we go, and Skeletor has now dropped below. I think that's quite a nice feature that they've kept from the original playset. I always liked playing with that and dropping figures down to the dungeon, and it does work pretty much the same as the original one did. I think because of the plastic they've used now, this sort of slightly more flexible plastic, there is less chance of this breaking, but it does work very nice. And then you can rotate the trap up, turn the chair back round, and it locks it back in place, ready for the next victim. You can see also in the back we have now a plastic computer terminal and another one of these little fabric flags hanging down there. Up to the top floors now, we have 3 separate little areas here that are on the sort of the turrets of Castle Grayskull. The one on the left has the access for the ladder. The middle one you can put the flag, and then on the right hand side we have the laser gun. And again, this is very similar to the original laser gun. If I actually just remove this whole floor, we can take a look at it. So you can see that does look remarkably like the original sort of laser cannon that came with the vintage version of Castle Grayskull. It does rotate around and you can move this up and down to aim at Skeletor and his minions. The ground floor of the set probably looks the sparsest of all. I'm guessing they've left this like this so you can put all of the accessories that come with the set in there, but it does look a little bit empty and like they really could have done it with a little bit more going on. Obviously you have the sticker there for the sort of the dungeon bit below, but overall the rest of it is looking very blank and very empty, and that again is much like the original playset. There wasn't a whole lot going on this ground floor. It probably would have been nice if they put a little bit more effort into this modern version. They certainly could have added some more computer terminals or something on the walls just to make it a bit more interesting, but as it stands I think this is probably the worst part of the playset. There's just not a lot going on. Anyway, let's turn this around and we'll look at the front of Castle Grayskull. And here we have the front of Castle Grayskull. It is quite an imposing playset. You can see I can't actually show it all on screen at one point, but it does look really quite nice. It certainly has the vibe of the vintage one. It's the same sort of green colour. They've added a few more paint details to it, especially to the door. You can see that's got a lot more details going on, but the overall effect is it looks like a vintage Castle Grayskull, just a little bit bigger. To open the front door we need to take He-Man's sword, and then we can insert that through the little keyhole there, and then the door will open. This is quite nice, the fact there are now sort of quite pronounced teeth on the front of it, so it really does look like a jaw. I know the original playset had sort of teeth on it, but I think they've made these a lot more spiky looking. Then to close the door we just have to lift it back up and it will click in place, but I always like the fact that you have to use the sword to open this. On the top of the playset you can still have your figures standing on the turrets. The additional floors make it quite nice that you can have things at different levels, and if you wanted to you could have figures standing at the windows because you can see through some of these onto the inside. So those are nice little sort of play features. Let's try and close the playset up and I'll show you the new clips that hold it all together when we close it into a sort of a carry case version of Castle Grayskull. Now to close the setup you do have to make sure to remove a few things from their sort of standard positions because they will get in the way. If you leave the ladder in, that can get caught on things, so I'm just going to put that to one side on the bottom, and the lift needs to be on the ground floor. If you leave it up like this you won't be able to close the set, so I'm just going to move that down onto the ground floor. Now we should be able to slide these two pieces together like so, and it will just about clip in. Sometimes these things are a little bit sort of fiddly because there are, as I say, little bits that just sort of get caught in the way. Instead of the clips that you had on the original playset, you now have these two hooks, so you can sort of push the set together and then hook it in place. There's another one down here on the lower area, so we can hook that on, and there you go, the playset is now hooked together and you can carry it around using a nifty handle at the top. Whether these clips will last, I have to say I don't think they will particularly last that well. They look like the sort of thing that will break, and they don't look like they're held on particularly well. They might be an improvement on the vintage ones, which were particularly temperamental, but these I don't think are much better, and I have a feeling in a few years' time you'll find quite a lot of these playsets with these clips broken, and I'll have to come up with a solution on how to fix them. But for now they do work, and Castle Grayskull can be made into a nice carryable version that you can carry around and take to school if you so wish. Overall, I really like this playset. It's certainly got a lot of nostalgia factor to it, and I think many people would have bought this for their kids just remembering the vintage one that they had and played with. And I think it does a very good job of sort of taking the old values and the old styles and modernising them so that you can play with modern figures on the set. And I think it's certainly worth getting, really. If you like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, one thing you need is Castle Grayskull. At some point it would be nice if they do make a version of Snake Mountain as well for Skeletor to have. Whether they do that, who knows, but for now, if you want a playset to play with, then this is the one that's worth getting. It's still in the shops and it's still available. I do have to say a massive thank you to Craig from Cumbria, who very kindly sent me this one as a Christmas present, so massive thank you to Craig. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to be storing this because I currently do have a vintage Castle Grayskull on display, and as I say, this one is just that little bit bigger than the vintage one, so I'm going to have to find a little bit more shelf space and try and squeeze this in. But they do look very nice side by side. The vintage goes very well with the modern, and I think it's a nice upgrade, certainly something that's well worth having. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.